Hey, glad you're here. Welcome to another awkwardly awesome podcast, fan favorite. What do you do when you suffer a stroke at age 56? David Sunde's answer is to keep living your dreams. You are not going to want to miss this. I mean, like he's been so resilient and is doing amazing things now. Tune in and enjoy it.
Today's guest, David Sunde.
Hello. Great to be here. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for being here. I'm excited for this conversation. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
It's pretty close. It's Sunday, kind of with the E pronounced prominent, but I've been called Sunday most of my life.
You sent me a voice recording of how to say your name too. Sorry about that, David Sunde. So did you do anything this past weekend, David?
Yeah, I got out pier at Lake Oahe on the reservoir and got in the water diving and shot some walleyes. And it was a beautiful weekend, sunny, about 90 degrees, and calm. It was just a really good weekend.
So first of all, for our listeners, Pierre is in central South Dakota, and Lake Oahe is.
It's one of the reservoirs along the dam of the Missouri River. It's the second one in line. The first one's in North Dakota, Garrison, and then Oahe, Big Bend, Pickstown, and Gavin's Point, 5 dams along the Missouri. And Oahe's a pretty big body of water. The Missouri is not muddy there. Its visibility is generally pretty clear.
Wow.
And it was this weekend. Sometimes it can be pretty murky, but generally good enough to see walleyes and shoot them.
So how does one get into shooting walleyes? This isn't something you hear about every day.
Very few people dive to begin with. Even fewer spearfish in lakes in South Dakota. Very few. More along the ocean, out in the Gulf and whatnot. But it's pretty unique, and South Dakota is one of 6 states that allow spearfishing. So it is legal to take game fish here. So very fortunate.
Interesting. So going back in time, where did you grow up, David?
I grew up in Madison, South Dakota, and moved to Sioux Falls. That's where I currently live. I was in junior high, moved here, and been here since.
If I had asked you when you were like 7 or 8, what you thought you wanted to do when you grew up, what would you have said?
Well, I actually always thought it'd be great to be a fireman, and I was very blessed and fortunate to become one. It took me quite a few years to get on the job here. I was 33 when I was hired. And it was, I couldn't think of a better job in the world. I mean, for me, it fit me very well. Helping others, serving, and a lot of situations when we get called, it's the worst day of somebody's life, and we don't necessarily at times make things any better, but we're there, we show up, And it helps their day go a little better knowing that someone's there to try to do something. Some very, very rewarding calls and some very, I would say not rewarding. I mean, we end up seeing and doing things that nobody wants to do.
As a little kid, what first intrigued you about firefighting?
Well, I was pretty young and we were going to go to the state fair that morning. And I woke up to a lot of screaming and the neighbor come running over and the camper we're going to take was actually on fire. And
Oh, wow.
so that was kind of scary, I guess. But then when the fire department showed up, and so I saw it firsthand and in that situation and thought I want to be a firefighter. Some good friends of ours, he was a volunteer, and I always admired, he had his bunker gear at home and always there willing to help the community. And that just really stuck with me.
So then what was your path from that point to becoming a firefighter?
Well, I didn't, as I moved to Sioux Falls and kind of, I don't know, I guess I wasn't necessarily pursuing it, didn't take any classes, fire science, and I just I was still in high school, and right out of high school I was working for Coca-Cola. It was a job and I didn't mind it, and it's kind of put on the back burner.
What were you for Coca-Cola? Were you delivering Coke?
Yeah,
Or
I started out in high school, I was loading trucks, and then before I graduated, they said, "Oh, would you like a nice career being a salesman?" And ended up, I got a route and all seemed pretty good. But after a few years, it's like, man, I don't know if I want to do this all my life. And my brother-in-law had gotten on the fire department, and that really kind of sparked me. But it was kind of a weird time. Over the course of me trying to get on and hire on taking the civil service test, quite a few guys were applying, and there just wasn't any spots. Nobody was retiring. They actually shut 2 stations down in that course of time. But I I think that there's something about me that I'm just pretty persistent about what I want, and 12 years later I got hired. So I just kept taking the test over and over, and I think they got tired of me.
So what is the civil service test?
It is basic knowledge, I guess. There was reading. It isn't really, just really pretty much common sense stuff for the most part, and a lot of it is reading, memory. Like I say, generally not real hard. But then if you are military, you would receive an extra 5 points as civil service. So yeah, it's really tight to get in when you got 600 people applying and taking the test. But
how many you apply over a 12-year period?
Well, it was every year, and then they went every other year for taking the written test, and then you do well enough on that, you're invited back for a physical agility, and then you'd have to pass that. So and then physical. There's quite a bit involved in just getting on the job, but.
So once you finally got hired, what was the training then?
They put you through. When I went through, it was 6 weeks at the training center. Now
where is the training center?
in Sioux Falls.
On Super.
And then they just built a really nice one that involves rural metro communications, the dispatch, the police. I mean, it's a really nice facility now. Um, and they do way more than when I started, and even before when I started, when you got hired, they just said, well, get to work, and they learned on the job. But they're, shoot, I think they go 3 months now, 12 weeks of training there. um, they put you through quite a bit.
So as a fireman, we think of course of going to house fires and fighting fires, but what all do firemen get called to do?
Well, if medical emergency, car crashes, anything that you call 911 to be dispatched, it has to meet certain criteria to push us, like generally police. And if you call and you're having trouble breathing, that alone gets everybody going. Um, so the dispatch kind of triages the call that comes in, and they start pushing buttons and sending the different vehicles to help with whatever situation it might be. But yeah, bicycle crashed, car crashed, heart attack, strokes, just feeling sick, you know, or falls. Somebody happens to fall and they struggle getting up, and then we were called for assist to help that way. You name it, we get called for lots of different things, but the majority of our calls has been and continue to be medical.
Wow.
Much more medical than fire.
What was it like when you got called to your first major fire?
Adrenaline, excitement, I guess, in a way, it's it's terrible to see that, to know that, someone's personal possessions and whatnot, and they're all burning up, and um, so it's kind of, the adrenaline is more like we need to get this out, and it's, but that kind of wears down to where, like with anything, it's just okay, just another a call, or there's always, and probably more than anything, I would say whatever the call may be, if there's a fire or an accident, whatever it may be, the urgency is so elevated. If you know when it comes in where there's a child involved,
Oh,
that that's that is definitely kind of gets everybody way more urgent. But yeah, it's as I progressed through and over the years and I became a driver, that was, yeah, there's nothing better than driving the fire truck and lights and sirens and making noise and whatnot. But I've always liked driving trucks. When I worked at Coca-Cola, I drove trucks, and um, that definitely is the best job. And then you get out, you get to the fire if you're first in, and you just hook up hoses and run gauges and make sure there's pressure. Um, so it kind of takes you away from the much harder physical work of going in and the dangers, and so driving is by far the best position.
so in the course of your career, you saw a lot of people from kids to adults deal with emergency situations. What are some good things for people, helpful things for people to do when they're going through an emergency situation and some unhelpful thing?
That's quite a bit to answer. Kind of depending on the situation, the medical need can be scary, for that individual, the family. Um, we've been like doing CPR, been cheered on by family, and then uh, everybody handles these situations different, and people get real upset. Some people, it's just like I don't know if they're kind of in shock and can't really show any emotion at the time, but every situation is really different and really depends on the individuals where you're going, to the person needing the help, to family members, friends that happen to be there. Um, yeah, you just absolutely, when that call comes in, you have no idea what you're getting into till you're there. Had people season, and when they wake up, they got 10 people standing around them. You get paramedics, the ambulance shows up, police are there, we're there. There's 4 of us with the truck every time on fire. So they wake up and they don't, what in the world, they don't know what's going on. They're trying to process everything, and it can be pretty scary for them. And sometimes they kind of lash out. Yeah, so every call is different. I don't know if that quite answered your question. uh, but that's kind of how it is when you jump in that truck. And then a lot of times information we get is almost completely different than what it actually is when we get there. You can be thinking, okay, this is this, and you get the holy smokes, it's the information they get, then they relay it to us. Sometimes it's not all in sync. Or it gets us thinking in a different mindset. Like, man, this is going to be really bad. Oh no, it's not so bad. So it's until you get there on scene, you cannot hardly prepare for situations that arise until you get there.
So you really can't pre-plan for
Well,
your week as a firefighter.
we can and we do, but in my experiences, it is you don't really know exactly what you're into till you get there. It's kind of hard to explain, I think, but just generally when something's really bad, we can tell by the voice in the dispatch. Then we definitely know we're into something. I mean, when things get elevated on their end, then we know we're really into something.
Then when you were 56, you encountered an emergency situation involving your own life. What was that like?
Well, it's really it took me by surprise. Kind of taking it back to being a firefighter, needing to be in good shape. So I did a lot of stuff to stay in shape. One thing I really got to do, and I liked because it was easy on the body, I did a lot of bicycling. I'd ride 5,000-6,000 miles, sometimes more during the summer.
And you say 5,000 or 6,000?
Yeah, 1,000. I'll put it this way: in the 6 years on the bike that I had, I just bought a real nice new bike 1 week before this, And that Bianchi that I rode was 6 years old, and I had 32,000 miles on it. So,
This was before
yeah.
you.
So I had 32,000 miles on. I bought a really, really nice bike, electric shift. It was like a dream. So I didn't go way over the top, but it was way, way more than most people spend. And I got to ride it 1 week, and I was feeling great. Last day that I rode was in Wyoming. I went from a little town called Meeteetse, and I rode into Thermopolis, about 65 miles, and I had almost a 21-mile-an-hour average. The first 10 miles out of Meeteetse was a super big climb, then huge rollers up and down climbing, but I was feeling so good, and I did a race. I did it 3 years in a row, and I was planning on doing at least two more. And I was getting so ready. This is 22nd of July. That race is the weekend after Labor Day. It's a 206-mile race.
200 how many?
206. And it's the longest single day race in America. And it's pretty challenging. There's three really big mountains to climb, three mountain passes. First climb's 22-mile climb, and there's no downhill. It's all uphill for 22 miles, and another about two 15-mile climbs and a whole bunch of rollers. It's for whatever reason, I love the mountains, and I'm in the canyon, the valleys, and the last 50 miles all along the Snake River Canyon coming into Jackson Hole. A great race, and I was feeling so good at that point. I did it in just under 12 hours, and I knew I'd probably get right at 11 hours or under this coming year. But then 3 days after that ride in from Meeteetse to Thermopolis, I was visiting my mom. No symptoms, no signs or anything, and I was leaving her house, and it hit me. I thought I'd tripped over something, and not just something. I thought like someone moved a couch into the hallway. She had 2 flights of stairs to leave her condo, and I just came down the first flight, walking to the next flight, and I thought, what did I trip over? And I turned around to look. There was nothing there. Man, that's really weird. And as I was walking over to the stairwell, I started to stumble some, kind of walking into the wall, and I'm thinking, man, there's something going on with my ears. The equilibrium's kind of messed up or something. By the time I got to the top of the stairs, my mom grabbed me and she said, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And I couldn't talk. I just sort of, and she freaked out. She just ran away from me, went back to the condo to call. And I was like, well, why didn't you use my phone? I pulled my phone out of my pocket. And right then and there, when I couldn't talk, I knew I was having a stroke. And
I suppose as a firefighter, you had seen
some
a lot of
signs,
people have strokes.
yeah, it's so weird. Just the thing was, just before I tried to talk, when mom asked me what's wrong, is denial maybe, or it's like, oh, there's something wrong, but it'll pass. It's like, I don't know what it is, but then when I couldn't talk, it's like I put it all together. Man, I'm having a stroke. So I called my wife, and she happened to be off that day, and she was getting gas, but my mother-in-law answered the phone, and I just hung up. That's really dumb. I can't talk. So then I managed, and this is what I'm right-handed, can't do nothing with my right hand. Well, in fact, before all that, I'm like, I got to sit down. I'm going to fall down these stairs. so I couldn't move my right side at all. So I'm trying to dig up her number. I did that with my left hand, and then I hung up, and then I managed to get message on there. Said I messaged her that I'm having a stroke. So then she come flying right over. The fire station is only a few blocks away, is the one that I was working at. And the guys came, and my wife got there just before them, and she looked right at me. She's a nurse at the VA. She looked right at me, and definitely she knew that it was a stroke. My face was drooped. Again, I couldn't talk, and I'm sitting on them stairs, and then the crew from the fire came, and then the ambulance came, and I heard the captain say, "Get him out of here now. He's one of ours." There's times where they'll try to get IVs in and do this and that. And they'll sit in the parking lot. We're waiting if they need any help. And but they paid attention to them. They took off and got me to the hospital instantly. They got me in, got the CAT scan, TPA, the drug that started dripping in me to help bust up the clot. That's what I had. I didn't have a brain bleed. I had a blood clot, and it was in 40 minutes. Time I text my wife to getting that dripping in me.
It was 40 minutes between you texting your wife and you started.
And there's that probably I couldn't have got help any sooner. My plan that morning, I was gonna, my wife was had the day off, and she had to work Tuesday, Wednesday. I have a cabin out at Pickstown on the Missouri River, the 2 dams down from Hawaii. My boat's there, truck's there, and I was going to drive out there that morning, get up early. I was kind of excited, but I was tired from the week of riding in Wyoming. And well, I haven't seen my mom. I'll go see her, and then I'll have lunch with my wife. And but if I would have left on that plan to go out to the river, I would have been in my boat the time that stroke happened.
Oh my gosh.
In my boat on a Monday morning on the Missouri River, and I would have been in the water already diving. So I wouldn't be I wouldn't be here if I'd done that. If somebody would have happened to come to my rescue immediately, we're 2 hours from Sioux Falls. There really is no good hospital between here and there. Just getting off the water, too much time would have passed. But more than likely, I would have never gotten back in the boat. There's no way I could have done that. And best case scenario, I could have maybe made it to shore, and I would have sat there. And yeah, I wouldn't be here.
So in the midst of a really challenging situation, there were miracles. You were close to your fire department. You weren't in Pickstown on a boat.
No, it was well, 3 days before, I could have been going 20 miles an hour. I could have been doing 40, 50 miles an hour, or 3 miles an hour. That denial of something's going on, this will pass. And even if I was going really slow, wearing a bicycle helmet, I could have just done a header right to the ground and out in the middle of Wyoming. I mean, yeah, that's everything happens for a reason, and I'm still here because God wants me here. And he's definitely, I've been on quite a journey and learned a lot of things. Helping, I've been going up and seeing people in the hospital with strokes.
Before we talk about all that, what was recovery like for you? What was it like that first month?
Well, it's probably about the same as it is now. Other than I kept thinking I'm going to whip this thing. I've been injured quite a bit. I've busted things. I know what it takes to get through that. But the stroke is so different. It's so different. It's all mental. It'll crush you. So it is a mental battle. You can't, I couldn't move my right side. It took so much work to get anything to move. Every day seemed like exactly the day before. I could go back right now. And when I woke up today, it was exactly like yesterday. When I woke up the day before, I can go all the way back to 5 years when it happened. And it doesn't seem like anything changes. But you cannot look at that. I can look back like a month or 2 months ago and say, man, I can move my fingers a little bit now. So if you let it, if you dwell on it, it'll crush you. The only thing I knew is I had to try to keep pushing and keep going. So that first month I spent in rehab, and whether it's a TIA, and I can't think of what it's a mini stroke basically that really doesn't affect you physically. They can come and go, so you don't have any residual physical. But the one thing with whether it's a TIA or a full-blown stroke, your brain, it affects the brain, and well, you just get really tired. Every single person with a stroke, no matter how minor or severe, that's a number one complaint. You're so tired. I slept so much, and I knew I did therapy 5 times a day, Monday through Friday, weekends. But I would still get up in the morning and I would shave. I haven't shaved now for a while, but I would shave every morning, and I couldn't do nothing with the right, and I was cutting myself with my left hand all the time, just trying to be normal, and it wasn't easy. It would have been a heck of a lot easier just lay in that bed and let the nurses take care of me, but I knew I had to if I was going to get better. And then I'd go to a therapy session, and I might have like a back-to-back, and then I might go and then maybe be a half hour, an hour, and go again. Every time I came back from therapy, I would lay down in bed. I mean, unbelievable. Even up to 3 years ago, I still kind of need afternoon naps if I'm not going full blast and going hard. But there were days, especially on the weekends, I was sleeping 20 hours a day, 15 to 20 easily. And that normally I was always functioning on about 5 to 6 hours of sleep. If I sat still, I would go to sleep. I know I'd be tired, and I mean, but I didn't sit still. It was my sleep pattern was about 6 hours. Yeah, it was a big change to sleeping all the time, and it was one thing I did once I got out of therapy, out of rehab. I did therapy 3 days a week, and I went to this called McKinnon Fitness Center, and I did spin class. I do that during the winter, so I didn't ride outdoors. So I do the spin class for 45 minutes. But when I went there once I got out of rehab and I went to the wellness center, they actually got me in a 6-week program for, um, for, well, like in my case, the manager of it, she like come to me right away. Oh, we just started this program. Someone coming out of rehab or a situation. So I was doing that, but then right away, all I wanted to do was be able to get on a bike. And I went into the spin class, and those bikes, they don't have any bar across them. You can step over them. So I could step over it, but my right hand, I mean, I really couldn't grip. Well, I could get it up there and kind of fall off. My leg was the same way. Get it on the pedal and try to do it, bring the crank around, and it just run into the bike or the crank and it'd kick it off. But they call them clipless pedals. If you don't know, it snaps into that pedal with special shoes. And I thought, man, if I bring my shoes, I bet I can snap in. And then at least my leg would stay on. And so then that Monday, went into class. I had an AFO on my leg, on my calf, to keep my foot from dropping. And one of the gals jumped right over. She took that off, took my shoe off, put my bike shoe on. And I'd get over to the bike and get up on it, and she'd grab my foot and line it all up, and I'd kind of stand up and get that thing to snap in. In 45 minutes, I would spin, get done with class. I was stuck there, but she'd always come over and twist my foot to get me out. And so I did that 5 days a week. And
You did
sweating.
that 5 days a week.
Yep.
Wow.
And then on the 3 days I did therapy at the hospital, I would do my therapy sessions. So I'd go to spin class at 8:15 in the morning, and it's done at 9. So I wouldn't ever schedule it till 10. So I'd do my OT and PT, and it'd be about noon. I get home and go to sleep. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would just spend my time. I'd do spin class and do a couple other things, but definitely I'd got in the therapy pool. It'd be about noon. I'd get home. So my day was, I'd get up about 6, and I don't know how I fight it to get out of bed and just push forward, knowing that I had to. And it was not easy. And then I'd get home at noon, and that was it. That was my day. I'd sleep. Now, mentally, it would have been a lot easier to stay in bed, lay on the couch, just feeling sorry, whatever. But that is the part of this thing that is unlike any other injury. You injure your brain, and it just wipes you out. And it is a mental animal that you can't push through the pain, because there really was no pain. It just didn't allow me to move. It was hard. I was tired. So that was different. that was tough. But riding a bicycle, I do believe the amount of miles I rode, as with anybody does endurance, you're training your brain. Now, that's the hardest muscle to train. But I'd be going, it could be flat, like around here, no hills, but the wind can blow hard, and it gets so old you can't go very fast, and you're pushing against it, and you think, I can't do this. And then, no, I can do this. I just don't want to. It's no fun, but I can do this. Climbing a hill, that's, a mountain. And man, my legs are tired. Your brain will tell you anything to get you to quit.
Yeah, your brain will tell you anything to get you to quit.
Yep, anything. And that's one thing I would suppress those thoughts. And I'm not tired. And, it's like, no, suppress them thoughts to make you quit. Because that's the easiest thing you'll ever do. So I'd always press on, and I think uh, that helped me through this recovery.
So,
You can't
so
quit.
were you eventually able to bike outside a little bit?
Yeah, actually, so that first spring I got a cat trike. It's 3 wheels, and they're made in Florida, and they started making them for people with disabilities. They're really nice, easy, fun to ride, but um, so I was riding that. I did that. Nothing like I did. I still working on the endurance, getting a lot better. But like riding on that cat trike, I could almost fall asleep. You're laying back in there and you're steering. It's really comfortable. Um, but this year, so I got on. I can get on a two-wheel bike, and this year in Razdak, I actually rode it 170 miles over the week. Last 2 days, I rode.
You said 170 miles over the week.
Yeah. The last 2 days was, I think, like about 60 some miles each day. The last 2 days, I rode the whole day on the two-wheel bike, and kind
So,
of a,
so what is that like for
uh,
to witness yourself going to from barely being able to get on a spin bike to riding 60
uh,
miles a day on a two-wheel bike?
well, I can tell you how that happened. Last summer, I got that bike out and I rode it a little bit, and I couldn't hardly get up the hill. Um, Really kind of unsafe because my balance. Um, so, and when it is the 1st of June, and I actually had my truck pulling the trailer, so I took the two-wheel bike along, thinking, oh, we get to the towns, maybe I can jump on that and ride just a little bit, get a little more used to it. So I went to a pedal assist. I have a battery, I have a spare battery. The first town we went to was good enough. I got on the first battery, but I left the key hanging in it and I lost the key. I could charge that battery, but the next day I needed both batteries in order to make it. And we have a John Barry, bike mechanic, was along, and he actually had a mechanism, but he wasn't able to get to it. He had some other calls to make. He does a mobile bike shop, and he couldn't get to it for another day. Well, I got my Bianchi. If I could just ride that, if I could get maybe 10 miles, maybe 15, I'll have enough miles out of the way. I might be able to finish on that cat trike. So I left Brookings, South Dakota that morning, and I didn't even get out of town thinking this is not very smart because I was my balance and whatnot, but I knew we were going to be on really quiet county roads. And then people are coming up to me and they're like, you got to get away. I don't want to run into you or crash. And I got to focus. I mean, I can't, that's one of the things I can't, if I'm trying to do things with the right leg and trying to do things with my arm, it doesn't work. I can only focus on one thing at a time for the most part. And riding that bike, I couldn't have people around me, but they couldn't believe I was on a bike. And so anyways, I got out of town and I kept riding, got the first rest stop, and I rode again, and I made it 27 miles, and I was exhausted. I was, but got on my cat trike then, and so a couple more days, I just tried to ride a little bit each of them days. And the last 2 days, I rode it the whole day. Um, that was a very good feeling. And the fact that I could get my leg up and over fairly easily now, um, the balance is coming. Uh, One thing, it took 2 years, over 2 years, about 2.5 years, and asking my therapist, why is my balance so bad? I mean, I just couldn't understand it. I'd try to stand on my right leg. As soon as I picked up my left foot, I would spin. It would be fast. I mean, it would spin me right to the ground. And I'm like, I couldn't wrap my head around what is going on. Why is my balance? I keep trying to work on it. And the therapist, she just kind of, sometimes it takes a while. And I'm like, that didn't help me understand what's going on. I started taking Pilates. It was 2.5 years later. And Carrie, the instructor, she had always started out with, so important, core and balance. And I know that it is, but she kept talking core and balance. You brushing your teeth that night or doing the dishes, stand on one leg and then stand on the other, core and balance. The third class, again, she started talking about that kind of as class is starting. And it hit me like a brick. I mean, it just like, man, that makes perfectly good sense. I have no muscles on my right side, my arm, my leg. That's all I thought about. My extremities. Now, all of my abs, I had no muscle, or they didn't work. I don't know how to explain it. There was nothing there. So I lift up that left leg, and everything on the left side, those abs would grab, and nothing to counter it on the right. And that's why I was spinning. So it took 2.5 years to figure that out. So then I really started to concentrate on paying attention, engaging my abs, and things come around a little bit better. And so then this spring, I'm able to get that leg up pretty easily, up and over. And I don't even know if I should say this, but I ended up, I bought a motorcycle in July. So I'm riding that because I'm not able to go as far on a bicycle. Kind of, it's not the same, but it's kind of it's kind of the same. The feeling of on the open road, I guess, but it cannot replace a bicycle. But I put quite a few miles on it. No doctor, no doctor would ever thought that would happen. But God just keeps working more miracles. Through this 5 years, and He's continuing. He is healing me. And if I was prayed over right away in the hospital. I mean, just intense praying of my healing. And like I kind of sense that the guys that come in there, that they were disappointed that I didn't jump out of bed. But I said, well, I still can't move, but it's okay. God's healing me. And if people that saw me 5 years ago to see me today and they followed my story, they're seeing things. If God would have healed me right then and there and jumped out of bed, I kind of equate it to the Israelites going to the promised land. Moses parts the God parts the Red Sea, but through Moses and all the different miracles, the Israelites almost instantly forgot that even happened. If I would have jumped out of bed and moved and been healed, no one ever believed I'd even had a stroke. That's I guess that's kind of how I see it.
So now, with your story, with your resilience, you help other stroke victims. Like if you were seeing someone in the hospital, like soon after they had a stroke and they were really depressed about the limitations, what would you tell them to inspire them?
You have to be positive. You can't think about what you can't do. You can't think that nothing's changing. you have to put the work into it, and it's not an easy road, but you have to stay positive, and you cannot entertain dark thoughts, because once they get in your head, you'll just spiral.
If
That kind of goes back to, that's the brain. You got to train that muscle. You cannot listen to that crap that tells you everything, that to give up and not do nothing. And no, you suppress those thoughts, stay positive.
it occurs to me talking that a lot of people who feel very healthy in life at the moment, they still struggle with negative thoughts and I can and just low confidence. What would you tell them?
Well, long before this happened, I had very strong faith. I've accepted Jesus my Savior. Uh, yeah, you cannot listen to bad thoughts. You got to stay positive. Uh, uh, so every year I have being on the fire department, a very thorough physical. They test everything from heavy metals in your blood to it's way more than anybody else ever does for physical. So every year for 23 years, 3 months prior to this happening, uh, the Ahmed doc I saw, and he knew me pretty well, and he come up and when I got into rehab, a couple of days later, he come up to see me, and he stood at the foot of my bed, just just completely shocked, and he said, "This should have never happened." He told me 3 months ago, before it happened, he said, "I'm stellar. I'm going to live forever." And I said, "Well, who wants to?" He said, "This should have never happened." And the neurosurgeon and several other doctors, they need to put their finger on what caused this. And I said, "Well, you can't figure that stuff out. Things happen. You take an athlete, uh, for whatever, marathon runner or whatever, young kid, tip over a heart attack. You can't explain that either. I mean, things happen. Um, One thing that I've accepted a long time ago is, we're all born with an expiration date, and I think some people know that, but they don't really think about it, or I think they have forever to live. But I've always thought you only got the moment you got, and I've lived that way. So when one thing I can say, when I sat on them steps, my mom leaves me, and I'm like, okay, I had a stroke. After I called my wife and I started thinking about things, I never waited to do something. If there's an opportunity, I did it. I wasn't worried about ever piling up a massive amount of money. Uh, and I had such a peace come over me, and just, I know I could smile, but I was mentally thinking, I was fortunate enough with this thing happening that I was able to retire. I was planning on working a couple more years, but I sat there and I thought, man, if I would have just saved money and not did anything and waited till I retired, no amount of money could buy me out of this situation. And I didn't know, I honestly didn't know if I was going to live to get to the hospital, or 3 days or 3 months. I had no idea. It didn't matter. I was totally at peace and just thankful. And then that's when, I guess, a slideshow kind of flipping through my mind, and all the memories and all the bicycle trips, scuba diving, to did a lot of snowmobiling. It just, I guess a lot of people would probably think all the money I wasted, but all I thought were all the memories that I had that cannot be taken away.
Mm.
We
How
we only have the moment.
how magnificent that at the moment you were having a stroke, instead of panicking or regret or what any number of anger, any number of sadness, you felt gratitude, and you had this wonderful slideshow playing.
Well, I honestly never once thought why this happened to me. Why God? Why is it what? I've never been angry about it. Now, flip the coin a little bit. My wife will argue with me. I have been very frustrated as I'm trying to do things and I can't. Yeah, I get frustrated with that as I'm trying and I just get really, I guess, angry. That's what she says. The stroke definitely affects a lot of your mind emotionally. It can really mess you up. I don't think I had so much that. I mean, you can bust out crying, things you can't control. I mean, it just, a lot of it depends on kind of what it affects in your brain. Because the clot, the clot that I had was as explained in a lesser vessel, and I'd say about the size of a nickel. That spot was white as could be, and then from that nickel, it kind of scattered out with specks of white. And the neurosurgeon said that part of the brain is dead. So basically, the brain's got to kind of rewire and and it takes a long time if anything comes back at all, but it definitely kills the brain is what a stroke does with a blood clot. And the longer no blood flow gets through, it kills more brain cells. But definitely, yeah, I haven't had a peachy, happy-go-lucky time with this by no means. It is frustration. I finally get something super simple like trying to get my socks on. Finally get that sock and only doing it with one hand because right hand didn't move at all, and they all kinds of tricks and whatnot. And getting that right leg to where pull it up and try to set it there, and it just wants to flop straight back down, and you just about get the side, and then the leg goes, and it gets really frustrating. But never been angry that this situation happened.
Could definitely talk another hour. You're fascinating. We haven't even talked about scuba diving and all that. And just an amazing story of service and resilience. Thanks so much, David. But before we go, I ask all my guests this. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you? And first I'll tell you what it means to me. To me, doing my imperfect best means I envision the best I want for my life and for the world, and then I go towards it. And when I make mistakes or when obstacles come up, instead of saying, oh, it just didn't work and quitting, I try to learn from all of that and then keep going forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
Well, I would say never give up. That is, you can fail and that's okay, but you can't quit. I mean, you just keep trying. And nobody's perfect, but you strive to do the best you can. Like you said, it's kind of at a loss right now, but um, yeah, you just keep going and trying and trying. I guess. Well, I can equate it to bicycling. Every time I went out to ride a bicycle, I was trying to stay in shape, right? And I didn't ride to enjoy it. It's kind of weird. I didn't necessarily. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't for the enjoyment of socializing. I didn't like riding with other people. I wanted to stay focused on cars coming behind me, paying attention to that. And when you're talking with others, sometimes you're not paying attention. But every time I rode, when I jumped in that bike, if it was for 3 miles or 10 miles or 100 miles, it was always to do better. It was always, I was always looking to improve my time, my speed. It was, uh, I, I would start out, I'd be riding hard and I'd finish hard. I mean, it was a complete workout, always trying to do my best on that. And I think that's always trying to improve whatever it is, and that is doing your best.
Wonderful definition. I'm glad I asked. David, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
For your resilience and for your service as a fireman, and how you just keep serving. You're inspiring people who've had strokes. You're just full of service in so many ways. Thanks for being you.
Thank you, Jason.
Gosh, it's talking to David. So many things occurred to me, and I hope you have so many thoughts too. One is how unpredictable life is. It's just, I mean, it's just unpredictable, and so much is beyond our control. But at the same time, so much is within our control. David decided how he had a stroke beyond anything he could predict or his control, but he has truly decided how he wants to respond to it, and he's responded in an amazing way, and it's so inspirational, and such a powerful reminder to me, and I hope to all of us, that things are going to come up for us, small things, big things that seem very imperfect, and we still have an opportunity to respond to them with courage, and respond to them powerfully, and still seek out the best and do our imperfect best. Thanks for tuning in